Welcome! Today we're going to be talking about the process, threats, and controls of receiving, the second major business activity in the expenditure cycle. Let's go over the process. First, an order comes in, and the receiving clerk checks to see if it is valid by comparing the purchase order number on the packing slip with the one on the purchase order file. The receiving clerk then inspects the goods, counts them, creates a receiving report, notifies accounts payable, and updates the open purchase order file. The goods and receiving report are then transferred from the receiving dock to the inventory stores department, where inventory personnel inspect the goods, count them, and reconcile that count with the receiving report. The goods are then stored, the inventory records are updated, and the receiving report is signed by inventory control. That's it for the process. Let's talk about the threats to receiving. The first threat is accepting unordered items. Then there are mistakes in counting, receiving inadequate services, and the theft of inventory. We'll talk about each of these threats as well as the controls to mitigate each one. First, there's accepting unordered items, which can obviously be a hassle and very costly. You can avoid this by requiring proof of an approved purchase order prior to accepting any delivery, thus ensuring that only items delivered would be accepted. Next, there are mistakes in counting. This can be a problem because your records won't be up to date and you won't know when to reorder items. You can avoid this by using barcodes or RFID tags, configuring our ERP system to catch discrepancies between orders received and amounts ordered. You can also require receiving employees to sign a receiving report, and avoid informing employees of quantities ordered. For example, if 7 iPads come in and only 6 were ordered, then Bob can go home with an iPad and no one would be the wiser. So you can use barcodes or RFID tags, configure your ERP system to catch discrepancies, require receiving employees to sign a receiving report, and avoid informing receiving employees of quantities ordered. Next is the threat of receiving inadequate services. This includes insufficient performance as well as being charged too much for services rendered. You can avoid this threat by using an internal audit team who will review contracts of service, including audits of supplier records. You can also use budgetary controls, which will budget out what services should cost and compare that with the actual cost. So you can avoid receiving inadequate services by using internal audits and budgetary controls. Finally, there's the theft of inventory, which can happen throughout the entire process. You can avoid this threat by restricting physical access to inventory as well as periodically counting the inventory. You can also document any transfers of inventory between receiving and inventory and reconcile that with recorded quantities. And finally, you can segregate the duties of custody and receiving. Well, that's it for the process, threats, and controls of receiving. Next time we'll talk about approving customer invoices